Today we're going to go over the Chapter 2 review, Proportional Relationships. There is a test on Tuesday, November 3rd. If you are a regular math student, there will be 13 questions on your test. If you're a pre-AP math student, you'll have 18 questions. If you are a remote learner, then your review looks kind of like this. And if you are quarantined or you're absent or you're a face-to-face student, then you may have a printed copy that looks a little bit different, but the questions are the same. They're kind of in a different format. So the first question is, Jack is putting $25 a week into a savings account plus $100 he got for his birthday. Use the graph below to determine whether the total savings is proportional to the number of weeks Jack has saved. And when we're looking at a graph, we can tell if it's proportional if it is a straight line and it must go through the origin. It has to have both things. Now, where is the origin? The origin is 0, 0. So usually it's in this corner right here. So this line is straight, but it does not go through the origin, so it is non-proportional. Our answer choices say we can mark off proportional. It's not proportional because the graph is not a straight line. That's not true. It is straight. It's not proportional because the graph is a straight line but does not pass through the origin. So it is that answer choice. Next question. Jesse rides his bike 5 miles per day. What is the relationship between the number of days and how many miles he has ridden his bike? Miles per day. Per is a key word for multiply. So 5 times days would tell me how many miles he's ridden. There's no adding. And I see multiplication. So that sounds like it is proportional. Anytime that there is multiplication and there's no adding, then it is proportional. If it had adding, then it would be non-proportional. Number 4. Tito has a mass of 40.5 kilograms. And 1 pound is approximately equal to 0.45 kilograms. What measurement is closest to the number of pounds Tito weighs? So we are changing 40.5 kilograms to pounds. And they told us that 1 pound is equal to 0.45 kilograms. So the way we set these up and showed you how to work them was we have 40.5 kilograms over 1 times, we want to change it to pounds, so that's on top. 1 pound is 0.45 kilograms. And the kilograms simplify. Then we multiply straight across and we get 40.5 over 0.45. And that is something that needs to be simplified, so we'd have to divide. Putting 40.5 in the house and 0.45 outside. Remember that if you have a decimal on the outside, you have to move it over. So that means I have to move it 2 spaces on the inside. I'm going to have to add another 0. 45 doesn't go into 4. It doesn't go into 40. But it will go into 405 about 9 times. Because 9 times 45 is 405. I can't stop there. There's still another 0, so I need to bring that down. 45 goes into 0 times. You've got to have something on top of each one of these numbers. We can't leave any blanks. So Tito is about 90 pounds. Next question. Solve the proportion. And I'm going to look at this over here because that kind of looks confusing. So y over 5 is equal to 13 over 10. And we solve proportions by cross multiplying, then divide. So I'm going to cross multiply. Y times 10 gets me 10 times y. And the other way, 5 times 13 gets me 65. And then we need to get the y by itself. So to do that, I divide by 10 on both sides. And on the left side, 10 divided by 10 makes 1. And 1y is the same as just y. And then we divide 65 by 10. 10 goes into 65 6 times. Put a decimal. And 10 goes into 55 times. So y is equal to 6.5. When you're putting in the answer, you do not have to put y equals. You can just put 6.5. Next question. Jenna's cell phone plan costs $65 per month. Complete the table to show the sum of the amount that Jenna will pay for her cell phone plan over the next 4 months. And the question is actually asking what is the cost for 4 months. So 65 per month. Per means we're going to multiply, so 65 times months. So for 1 month would be 65. The next one would be 65 times 2, which is 130. Then the next one would be 65 times 3. Seems like we're adding 65 every time, So for 4 months, 65 times 4, 260. So the answer would be 260. Her plan's going to cost $260. Next question. Nike swam the length of her swimming pool, which is 18 feet 4 inches. There are 2.54 centimeters in 1 inch. What is the length of Nike's pool in centimeters? So they gave us 2.54 centimeters in an inch, but they gave us 18 feet. So first I have to figure out 18 feet is how many inches? Well, 1 foot is 12 inches. And if you have a chart, a mathematics chart from 7th grade STAR test, this would be a good place to use it because it would show you on there that 1 foot is equal to 12 inches. So to figure out 18 feet, I would need to multiply by 12. And we would get 216. Plus that 4 makes 220 inches. So we have 220 inches, and we want to change it to centimeters. Remember, we put that over 1, and the conversion goes next to it. And it said it was 2.54 centimeters to 1 inch. The inches will cancel. And then we need to multiply 220 times 2.54. Remember, when you're multiplying by 3 digits numbers, there's going to be 3 lines of numbers to add up And every time you go to the next number, you're putting down more zeros. So I have a little trick I use. Every time I'm done with a number, I put down a 0. And then when I'm done with the next number, I put down a 0, and I put a line through it so I know that's the 0 that I put down. Kind of helps me not to get lost in all the zeros, because as you can see, there's starting to be a lot. Now I need to put the decimal in the correct place. And in the problem, there's 2 decimal spaces, so in the answer I need 2 decimal spaces. It needs to go between the 8s. So the answer would be 558.8. And you do not have to write the last 0. You can, but you do not have to. Next question. A study showed the average monthly meat consumption is 3 pounds per person. Which representation shows the monthly meat consumption of people at this rate? And there's a very tiny picture that I'm going to zoom in on so that you can actually see the chart and graph. So this says 3 pounds per person. That means 3 times however many people. So this choice A says 5 people can consume 14 pounds of food. So that would be 5 times 3, which is 15. Then that answer is not going to be correct. And B says Y is going to equal X plus 3, where X represents the people and Y represents the weight in pounds. Well, did we add? No. Per means to multiply, so it's not that, because we multiplied 3 times people. C. Let's check out some of those numbers they have on there. Remember, one person would be, I want to make myself a little chart. One person would be 3 pounds. And we're multiplying by 3 every time. So 2 persons would be 6 pounds. Is that what the graph shows? Yes. 3 people would be 9. Yes. And then 4 people would be 12, because 4 times 3 is 12. That's what the graph shows. And the last dot is 5, and 5 times 3 would be 15, and that is what the graph shows. So that one may be it. Let's check out this table. Are those the numbers that I got when I did my table? It does kind of look like the same numbers as in my graph, the table that I just made. But this column was for people. This column is for meat. So look, they mixed them up. That's why it can't be that one. Don't let them trick you like that. So the correct answer is C. The graph. The graph is correct. Next question. Mrs. Evans bought a 10-ounce bag of fruit snacks. At 6 ounces, she counted 45 pieces. How many pieces of fruit are in the bag of fruit snacks? Anytime they give you 3 numbers and 2 of the numbers have the same descriptive word, that is a proportion. So we're going to be setting up a proportion. We have 6 ounces and 45 pieces of fruit. And when we set up a proportion, we want the items to be lined up. So 6 ounces goes with 10 ounces. And we're looking for that number right there. To solve a proportion, first we look for a relationship. Is there anything I could do to 6 to get to 10? No. I couldn't multiply 6 times something and get to 10. So maybe we try simplifying. Relationship first, then simplify. Can I simplify 6 and 45? Yes, I can divide both of those by 3. 6 divided by 3 makes 2. 45 divided by 3 makes 15. Now look for a relationship. Could I do something to 2 to get to 10? I could. I could multiply by 5. So if I do that on bottom, 15 times 5 gets me 75. So the answer is 75. There should be 75 pieces. Next question. The waiting time to ride a roller coaster is 20 minutes when 150 people are in line. How long is the waiting time when 240 people are in line? Look, there's 3 numbers. And 2 of them say people. That's a proportion. I've got 3 numbers and 2 of them have the same descriptive. So look for the rate. That'll be the first fraction. 20 minutes. And always be sure to label your proportions so that you don't mix up the numbers. Sorry. So 240 people goes with the number on bottom. First, I look for a relationship. Can I do something to 150 to change it to 240? No, don't believe so. So could I simplify? Yes, both these numbers end in 0, so I could divide by 10, which is the same as canceling the zeros. So now I have 2 over 15. Now, can I do something to 15 to get to 240? I may not know my 15s that well. So if I don't know what I could multiply 15 times to get to 240, then I cross multiply and divide. So I'm going to be multiplying 2 times 240, and I'll get 480. And on the other side, it'll be 15 times some unknown. I'm going to call it x. Now I need to get x alone so I know what that unknown number is. That means I'm going to divide by 15 on both sides. And the 15s will cancel, and x will be alone. And then I need to work out that problem there. 480 divided by 15. 15 goes into 48 3 times, because 3 times 15 is 45, with 3 left over. 15 goes into 30 twice, with nothing left over. So my missing number is 32. 32 is my answer. Next question. Heather was out for a leisurely walk at a rate of 3 miles per hour. What was her speed in yards per minute? So they have 3 miles per hour, and we want to change it to yards per minute. So we're not only changing miles to yards, we're changing hours to minutes. So the rate is 3 miles in 1 hour. So what is the conversion fact for miles and yards? Let's do that one first. Well, there's 1,760 yards in 1 mile. And remember, I want the units to be across from each other so I can cancel them. And then I also want to change hours to minutes. So minutes to hours. How many minutes are in an hour? 60. Then I start looking for something I can cancel or something I can simplify. I can simplify the hours, and I already did the miles and the miles. I see that 60 and 1,760 end in zeros, so I can divide those both by 10. That would be 6, and that one would be 176. I also see that I could simplify 6 and 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 6 divided by 3 would make 2. And I could probably simplify the 176 by 2. But I can't do that very well in my head, so I'm just going to go ahead and work it. 1 times 176 times 1 is 176. And then 1 times 2 is 2. Now I have an improper fraction that I have to divide. 2 goes into 17 8 times with 1 left over. Bring down the 6. 2 goes into 16 8 times. Nothing left over. So this would be 88 yards per minute. You can just put 88 in the blank. The next question. Marja biked 4.5 miles in 1/4 hour. What is her average speed in miles per hour? Well, they did kind of give you in miles per quarter hour. So they said 4, and 4.5 miles is 4.5. So 4.5 miles and 1/4 is 0.25. So 4.5 miles to a quarter hour. And we want to change that to 1 hour. What would I need to multiply 0.25 times to get 1? Think about how many quarters are there in $1. 4, so I'd multiply times 4. So if I do that on top, then I'll know what her speed was in miles per hour. 4.5 times 4. And I had 1 decimal space in the problem, so I need 1 in the answer. So that would be 18. And again, you don't have to write that 0 after the decimal. You can drop that. Next question. Alfred recorded 8 songs on his most recent CD. The total length of the CD is 50 minutes. Calculate the length per song on the CD. Per song, that means for one song. And if we're trying to figure out for one thing, that's the unit rate. So we're trying to figure out for 1. That means we're going to divide 50 by 8. So I can figure out what just one song would be. 8 goes into 50 6 times, because 6 times 8 is 48. Subtract, I get 2. 8 goes into 20 2 times. Don't forget your decimal. 4 left over. Bring down another 0. 8 goes into 40 5 times with nothing left over. So this is 6.25 or 6.25 minutes per song. 14, or the next question. The cost of 5 pounds of potatoes is $4.75. What is the constant of proportionality that relates the cost in dollars, Y, to the number of pounds potatoes, X? And I know it's a very wordy problem, but all it's really asking for is the unit rate. What is it for 1 pound of potatoes? Well, to find 1, we're going to divide $4.75 for 5 pounds. The constant of proportionality is the unit rate. Okay, 5 does not go into 4. 5 goes into 47 9 times. 2 left over. And 5 goes into 25 5 times. So the constant of proportionality is 0.95. 95 cents. Next question. Answer the question below by writing 2 or 3 complete sentences in the space provided. So we're not working it out. We're using words to describe how to work it. It costs $10 per downloaded book plus a $2 initial fee. The chart and graph both demonstrate this rate. Is this relationship proportional? How do you know it's proportional? Using appropriate vocabulary and complete sentences, explain your reasoning. So it asks, is it proportional? And there's something I noticed in the problem. It says plus a $2 fee. Anytime the problem involves addition, then it is non-proportional. I also notice it does not go through the origin. And for it to be proportional, it's going to have to go through the origin. Another thing we could do is check all of these intervals by dividing 12 by 1 and 22 divided by 2 and 32 divided by 3. And 12 divided by 1 would be 12. 22 divided by 2 is 11. And I know right there that those rates are not the same. I don't even have to check the next one. So we need to write that in a couple of sentences. This is a non-proportional relationship for several reasons. The line on the graph does not go through the origin. The problem involved addition. The intervals in the table do not show a constant rate. Answer the question below by writing 2 or 3 complete sentences in the space provided. Sonia and Trey are tracking their reading progress. They read 2 pages of their assignment together as a class. The graph represents the number of pages they have read. How many more pages does Sonia read after 3 weeks compared to Trey? Using appropriate vocabulary and complete sentences, explain your reasoning. So this graph shows how many pages they've read, and it shows it in days. It does not show weeks, and the problem asks about how many pages they will have read after 3 weeks. So we need to figure out their rate so we can calculate for 3 weeks. 3 weeks would be 21 days. So first I might figure out Sonia's, and I'm just going to look on the graph for a place where it crosses evenly so I can find her rate. And I see right about here is a good place. So in 3 days, she reads 3 days. She reads 5 pages. So in 21 days, that would be times 7. She's going to read 35 pages. Now I'm going to find Trey's rate, and it looks like his crosses evenly right there too. So in 3 days, he reads 4 pages. In 21 days, again, that would be times 7, 28 pages. So if I subtract 35 minus 28, she reads 7 more pages. Now, what could we write about? In words, we could talk about how we got there. First, we calculated each of their rates. We could even say we calculated their rates at 3 days, then multiplied by 7 to find the number of pages at 3 weeks. Then, final step, we subtracted. To find that Sonia read 7 more pages. This next question starts the PreAP section. So it says, what is the constant rate of change between the quantities in the table? Notice it says, what is the constant rate? Implying that it is a constant rate. We're not checking to see if it's constant. They're telling you it is. That means I can pick any interval I like and divide it to find the constant rate. So I'm going to pick the one with the easiest numbers, I think are the easiest numbers. 185 divided by 20. And 20 will go into 185 9 times, because 9 times 20 is 180. 5 left over, decimal. 20 goes into 50 2 times. 10 left over. Bring down another 0. 20 goes into 100 5 times. Nothing remaining. So the constant rate is $9.25. Next question. Write an equation for the direct variation when y equals 36 and x equals 4. What they're wanting you to do is figure out what the m is. Remember, m is the constant rate. Remember that formula, y equals m times x? Well, if my y is 36 and the x is 4, what would be m? Well, if I divide by 4 on both sides, 36 divided by 4 is 9. And the 4's cancel, so 9 is equal to m. That means my formula that I would put in is y equals 9 times x. Since m equaled 9, the formula I would use is y equals 9x. Next question, write an equation for the direct variation when y equals 0.5 and x equals 2. Same type of question. You're going to plug in what you know, what they just told us into the equation, y equals m times x. So if y is 0.5, we don't know m, and x is 2. So I'm going to be dividing by 2 on both sides. 0.5 divided by 2, it's kind of like we're taking half of 50 cents. So on this side it would be 0.25, and on that side it would be m. So my m is going to be equal to 0.25. I need to plug that into the equation. It would be y equals 0.25 times x. Next question. Select the correctly represented domain and range. Remember, domain, Wonder Woman, she holds her arms like an X. Domain is the X coordinates, and range is the Y coordinates. And when we write them in ordered pairs, X always goes first and Y goes second. So my X's are the first number. And when we write them in domain, we want to write them in order from least to greatest. So the least of all those would be -1, and then 2, and then 3, and then 4. So the domain that shows that would be there. And then we need to list the range. The range would be the second number. And again, in order from least to greatest. So least would be -3, then -2, then 0, then 1. So that would be that. Next question. At a dance, tickets were $5 for every student. Write a function to represent the situation where C is the total cost and S is students. So C is the total cost. C is going to be on the equal side by itself. And what do we need to do to students? That's the number we need to multiply. So 5 times S. That's the equation or the function. Next one. From the table, what is the relationship between the cost to rent a car and the number of miles it is driven? Cost to miles. That means this number, the Y, goes on top. Is it proportional? Is it a ratio? Is it non-proportional? It's probably not going to ever be cannot be determined, but it's going to be one of the others. And more than likely, it's either proportional or non-proportional. So we have to check each interval and see if they all come out to be the same. So 35 divided by 100, that's 0.35. 45 divided by 200. Could I simplify it to 100 so I could change it to a decimal? Yeah, what's 45 divided by 2? Might not know that. So 2.5. So as a decimal, that would be 0.225, which is not the same as 0.35. So since they are not the same, they are non-proportional. Next. Same thing again. From the table, what is the relationship between the miles run and the number of days? So again, probably won't be ratio and probably won't be can't not determine. Divide each one of the intervals. 4 divided by 1 is 4. 8 divided by 2 is 4. 12 divided by 3 is 4. And 16 divided by 4 is 4. So they all came out the same. That makes them proportional.